Professor Dumontier, please tell me a little more about your research and how that relates to big data.
Sure. So my research is interdisciplinary. What we're interested in ultimately is understanding how drugs work, their mechanism of action, and using that information to develop new drugs and also to try to, for instance, reduce the frequency of adverse events that occur when people take multiple drugs. So polypharmacology.
Polypharmacology, and how do you go about doing that?
One of
in
the,
a basic nutshell.
One of the things that drew me to Stanford is primarily because there's the hospital and clinics. And so the opportunity is, how do we leverage what we know in biomedical research with what we see in the clinical setting? And I think the observations that we make in the clinic can inform and help drive the research that we want to do in biomedical research, but at the same time we can validate results or predictions that we might make from biomedical data with what we see in the clinic. So what we're trying to do, I think, is create a virtuous circle between the clinic and the research setting. So research being, for instance, what we do with animal models. They can tell us a lot about how humans respond to drugs. But right now it's very difficult to see that immediately. For instance, if you have a patient and they don't respond well to a drug that most people do, what do we do next? And it's mostly a black box. We don't know what we should be doing, but our animal models really could tell us what would be the next most likely best treatment that you could go after.
So in terms of practical applications, your research will help inform patients and doctors of what types of drugs to try next.
There's a big drive towards personalized medicine, and physicians will tell you they have been practicing personalized medicine for a long time, right? They take into account all of the factors about that patient before they try to make some treatment decision. And I think what we're trying to do is say, well, how do we get the research that's ongoing and leads to breakthroughs in drug treatments? How do we continue to use that to personalize treatment for individuals?
And are you looking at certain types of drugs and diseases, or broad spectrum?
So the approaches that we take, the algorithms we develop, are broad spectrum. We intend to apply them to all drugs and all diseases. But the ones that I'm most interested in are the ones that are really hard or have no treatments whatsoever. So rare diseases in particular are super interesting. There's about 7,000 of them, and only about 150 have treatments, and there's 250 products in total. So there's a huge gap so rare diseases are those that occur basically 1 in 1,500 or 2,500 people might have one of these diseases. And so the market is so small that nobody wants to make the investments to develop drugs for them because it simply doesn't make sense from a financial perspective. So they're really a neglected population. But I think we're well positioned as academics to try to find potential drugs, and then through foundational support, we'll see if we can drive that to some treatment. My particular approach is actually, let's not try to discover new drugs, let's try to take the drugs we already have and see if we can repurpose them for rare diseases.
I see.
So in that way, we reduce the overall cost of developing drugs for a small population. We already know they're safe and effective because they've been approved, but we need to find new indications for these diseases.
And how soon do you think we'll see clinical applications?
Right now I'm just setting up the lab here at Stanford. I have one postdoc and we're applying for grants, so my hope is that within a couple years we can build a team that can sort of systematically go after these different rare diseases, engage with the stakeholders, whether it's the patients or the foundations, the agencies that fund this kind of research, the physicians that see the patients, and interact with specific groups in order to realize the next generation of treatments for that patient population. I think that's what takes the huge amount of time. From a technical perspective, from what we do in the lab, I would have to say it's only a small portion, a minority of the effort to actually translate into something in the clinic.
I wish you the best of luck going forwards with your lab, and thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today.
Thank you very much.